here for the first time? Okay. She's joking. What's your name?
Taylor.
Taylor?
Tracy.
Tracy.
Do you remember Michael talking about
I'm Mike.
recognizing?
Hello.
Oh, right.
How are you?
I didn't recognize you right away.
Sure.
Yeah.
My hair's a little long.
It is. Yeah. How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good. Good. Yeah. I'm Ramananda, by the way. You've introduced yourself already?
I'm Claudia.
Good. Good. Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Let's see. We have requests from a few people who can't be here. Would we record the satsang? So, let's see what we can do. That's why Leela is here, recording for us. We can see if we can record with this also. We should start with a chant. Well, do you have anything in mind?
I can do my regular one. Okay, let's close the eyes. And why don't we take altogether 2 deep breaths and just arrive. And then with the next inhale, join me into the sound of 3 ohms. Thank you for coming. spiritual activism. The idea was born because I kept on asking him, how do I deal with all this? How do I be in a world without numbing myself? Being open to what is without despairing about it. So that's where we started to discuss, and so our hope tonight is, at least for my part, maybe Ramananda has a lot of answers. At least for my part, I really don't have any answers. Like, I have a lot of questions, and my hope is that we just come together as a community, and not just the IYI Sangha, but really just as a community of seekers that just find ways on how to deal constructively with that.
I think our intention is to each of us share some of our thoughts and then open up the satsang for some discussion, for whatever experiences or comments you guys have, whatever questions you have, so that we can consider it all together.
Okay.
You want to start?
Yeah, and I would like to start with a little meditation. So let's find any posture that you can maintain for just a moment. Close your eyes. And maybe take another big full breath. And then simply bring your awareness to the physical body. Start noticing the pull of gravity and the way it feels. It pulls you downward. Noticing life force moving away from gravity upward. And just get a sense of your physical body in space. And then depending on the way your day went or the way you came in today, your mind might be still or busy. It doesn't matter. At least physically your mind might be still wandering, but at least physically we do have a sense of some kind of stillness. Even though we know that externally we move at a very fast pace around our own axis, around the sun. So just the idea of stillness is an illusion. And then internally you have blood moving, heart beating, lungs expanding, contracting, lots of movement also internally. And then just bring to awareness that to sustain your physical body you need food. And I just recently read a very interesting question of whatever you had for dinner, let's choose broccoli. When is this broccoli that you eat actually become you? And when is the food that you ate not you anymore? Your physical body is, I believe, 70% water. constant exchange, replenishing your water. Water that has to come either from the mountain or from the ground. And then your physical body has to breathe. So when is the next in-breath becoming you, and when does the next out-breath stop being you? Myself contemplated on that, I realized that my sense of me is just an illusion. It really helped me to understand how interconnected we are with the source of food, that however processed and packaged it might be, it has to grow somewhere at one point, and even if it's a long time ago. Few moments, see yourself in this really deep interconnection with everything else. The constant exchange with the outside world. So the boundaries of yourself, what we call self, are in fact very vague. Just like the shoreline, it's very difficult to say where the ocean starts and the land ends, because it's moving constantly. Take a big full breath. And just open the eyes. So, in terms of spiritual activism, I am lately very, very influenced, so a lot what I say tonight is from an author, yoga teacher as well as a Buddhist teacher. His name is Michael Stone, and he opened a new world for me to deal with yoga. So a lot of my thoughts tonight are definitely coming from him, so I give him credit right away. And so he started translating the Raja Yoga a little bit more into like what does it mean for our world nowadays. So he came up with translating yoga not so much as union, what we usually do, but he calls it intimacy. Because he says when we truly, truly would become intimate with everything around us, we would just blatantly understand that we are interconnected with everything, that there is this constant exchange with the outer world, that ourself is really just so vague of who are we, because we change non-stop. In his side is advidya, which is ignorance, is being not aware of this interconnection anymore. And when I see myself living in the city too long and I don't make it out to nature, I just start understanding how that creeps up on me, how then all of a sudden city life becomes, it has like a momentum in its own. So I really personally make it lately an effort to reconnect with nature. So I start reconnecting. So I start understanding that there is this intimate link between me and nature. And so he started raising a lot of questions and trying to apply the yamas to modern life. So he raises a question like ahimsa. how do I apply nonviolence? We talk about nonviolence a lot among each other and towards animals and such, but how do I apply nonviolence when I go shopping? How much do I pay attention if I harm somebody when I buy a product? How do I apply nonviolence when I invest my money? And it's things that we do just because we have to do them, right? We have to survive, we have to make our living, but how can we practice our yoga in a more complete way that it really encompasses everything? And I can just go to the, like, Satya. Do I dare speaking my truth when I see injustice? Do I really open my mouth? Do I really do something? Or am I busy with other things at this point because, I don't know, my life is too busy? Asteya. Are other people exploited just to satisfy my need? It's when we look at nations, at the way the economy is dealing with things. Like, how do I practice this? Like, how do I deal in my daily life with those kind of things? Brahmacharya, how do you use energy and resources wisely? Aparigraha, do I really need everything that I have? Or do I need more or not? So he raises the question past our individual level. That's the way I usually apply the Yoga Sutras. I apply them to my personal, individual, spiritual growth. Like, do I do all those things? But like, how do we do this also as a society? Not just on a personal level, where then all of a sudden samskaras is not just like my personal little knots and ends that I have because of my story and this and that, but there's those habits that we have as a society that is so very, very difficult to break because we're just so used to living that way. And how do we practice yoga that we can cut through those illusions? Because then it comes back to the interconnection. Like, if I really would be aware of this interconnection, then the yamas will just naturally express themselves, because then there's not really a choice. Then if everything is me, then I will be nonviolent, I will be truthful, I will deal with these energies wisely. So that's my main question, and I just give it over to Ramananda then. How do we practice yoga on not only the individual level, but also in respect to our society that we live in, and how can we make our yoga relevant to deal with those issues and to not separate it anymore, that there's those political issues here or socioeconomical issues or all those issues, catastrophes. And then we practice our yoga here. So how do we bring our yoga out of the quiet little space where we meditate, and not that I say like it's very important to do this, but how do we bring it out into the world more effectively? And I personally rely on community a lot, so that's why I was hoping that like tonight we can just brainstorm a little bit together on how to deal with this. I want to read one more quote of.
Please.
This is Michael Stone himself, because his language is so much better. He says, given the condition we find ourselves in these days on the planet, understanding our interconnectedness is not a spiritual luxury, it is a social imperative.
Read that again.
Given the condition we find ourselves in these days on the planet, understanding our interconnectedness, this very intimate link to everything, is not a spiritual luxury, it is a social imperative. So that was, which I felt like there were 3 parts to the satsang, and so the part that I just covered was just what can we as a community do to deal with this a little bit better than the second question. And that's how I started out, was how do I deal with this anxiety? If I, like, either I numb myself and just don't look at all and buy a lot, or I don't know, numb myself in some kind of way, or I take it all in and then it's almost impossible to live with this. And I thought that part, I let Ramananda answer.
Mm-hmm.